The twin suns of Neridian 4 burned mercilessly in the cloudless sky, turning the mining pits into death traps of heat and dust. Mira knelt at the edge of the deepest excavation, her wrists bound behind her back with coarse rope that bit into her flesh. Sweat trickled down her purple skin, which pulsed with faint lavender highlights, an involuntary biological response to extreme stress that she couldn't control. She had been left here deliberately, positioned where the automated excavator would soon pass. The machine wouldn't stop for obstacles. It was programmed for efficiency, not compassion. Her former clan members knew this when they abandoned her here at dawn, a clean execution without the misances of bloodshed. Just another disappearance in the unforgiving desert. Mira's white hair clung to her face, whipped by hot winds carrying the scent of scorched metal and dust. She tried to keep her breathing steady, but failed as the distant rumble of the excavator grew louder. Its massive treads crushed everything in their path, its drill bits designed to bore through solid rock. Human flesh would offer no resistance. "I will not cry," she whispered to herself, the words immediately stolen by the wind. "I will face this with dignity." The excavator crested the ridge, its metal frame gleaming painfully bright in the sunlight. Myra's pulse quickened, but she refused to close her eyes. If death was coming, she would watch it approach. Elias. Reeves was finishing his maintenance route through the eastern quadrant when something caught his eye, an unusual shape. Against the ochre landscape, through the dust-streaked windshield of his utility vehicle, he squinted, then felt his heart drop. A person, kneeling directly in the path of the automated excavator. "Damn it," he hissed, slamming the accelerator. The vehicle lurched forward, kicking up a plume of dust behind it. The excavator was moving faster than normal. Someone had overridden the standard safety protocols. At this speed, he had maybe 2 minutes before it reached the kneeling figure. Elias abandoned his vehicle 50 meters away, running the remaining distance. His lungs burned as he sucked in the superheated air. As he drew closer, he realized the figure was a woman. No, not human. An alien woman with distinctive purple skin. Her head turned toward him, eyes widening in shock at his approach. "Don't move," he shouted above the excavator's roar. The alien woman stared at him, disbelief etched across her features. Behind her, the machine's treads crushed the earth with increasing volume. Elias sprinted to the emergency override panel installed at each section of the mining route. He slammed his palm against the red button, but nothing happened. The panel's indicator light remained dark. It had been deliberately disabled. Of course, he muttered grimly, changing course. There was only one option left. He reached the woman just as the excavator's shadow fell over them both. Without hesitation, he pulled a knife from his belt, sliced through the ropes, binding her wrists, and pulled her to her feet. For a moment, she seemed frozen, staring at him with wide amber eyes. "We need to move now," Elias shouted, gripping her arm. The spell broke. Together they scrambled away from the pit's edge, tumbling down a small embankment just as the excavator thundered past, its drill bits tearing into the exact spot where Mira had been kneeling seconds before. They lay in the dust, breathing heavily. When Elias looked up, the alien woman was watching him with a mixture of confusion and wariness. "Why?" she asked, her voice rough from thirst and dust. Elias sat up slowly, giving her space. "Because you needed help," he said simply. The utility vehicle rattled across the uneven terrain as Elias navigated back toward his outpost. Beside him, Mira sat rigid, her gaze fixed on the horizon. She had not spoken since their escape from the excavator, her hands clutching the seat beneath her as if expecting the ground to disappear at any moment. "The outpost is just over that ridge," Elias said, breaking the silence. "It's not much, but it's secure. You'll be safe there." Mira's amber eyes flicked toward him. "Safe is a relative concept," she replied, her voice low and measured. "I've found it to be temporary at best." Elias didn't argue. In the harsh environment of Neridian 4, survival was never guaranteed. The mining colony existed on the knife edge of habitability, sustained only by the precious ore that made the planet valuable to distant corporations as they crested the hill. A dome-shaped structure came into view as standard-issue maintenance outpost, reinforced against the planet's frequent dust storms. Its metallic surface reflected the harsh sunlight, a solitary beacon in the barren landscape. "You live alone?" Mira asked as the vehicle approached the airlock. "For 3 years now," Ilias confirmed. "The company reduced staff after automating most of the mining operations. Someone needs to keep the machines running, so here I am." The airlock hissed open, welcoming them with a rush of cool, filtered air. Mira stepped inside cautiously, her eyes scanning every corner of the small habitat. The main room served multiple purposes: kitchen, workspace, and living area, all compressed into an efficient layout. A narrow doorway led to what appeared to be sleeping quarters. "You can clean up if you want," Elias said, gesturing toward a compact shower unit. "There's water limited, but clean. I'll find you something to wear." Mira hesitated, then nodded once. When Elias returned with a set of standard-issue work clothes, she had already entered the shower. The water ran briefly, then stopped. Conservation was second nature to anyone who survived on desert planets. She emerged minutes later. Her white hair slicked back from her face, revealing the delicate structure of her features. The purple skin of her face showed faint lavender markings that curved along her cheekbones, now more visible without the layer of dust. The clothing hung loosely on her frame, but she had rolled the sleeves and cinched the waist with precise efficiency. "You're from the Valoran settlements, aren't you?" Elias asked as he prepared a simple meal from his rations. Myra's posture stiffened. "How did you know?" "The markings. I've seen them before, though rarely this far from the Eastern Territories." He placed a bowl of reconstituted protein and hydrated vegetables before her. "Why were you left for the excavator?" She looked at the food without touching it. "I refused a binding ceremony. My clan decided I was defective, expendable." Her words were clinically detached, but Elias noticed how her fingers tensed against the table's surface. "A binding ceremony? You mean marriage?" "A permanent pairing based on genetic compatibility rather than choice," she corrected. "I was selected to join with a clan leader. I declined. And that was enough to condemn you?" Myra's gaze met his directly. In a society built on absolute compliance, choice is considered a dangerous flaw. Elias absorbed this, then pushed the bowl closer to her. "Eat. Your body needs it, even if your pride doesn't want it." Something flashed in her eyes, not anger, but surprise. She took the spoon and began to eat with precise, measured movements. As night fell, the temperature dropped dramatically outside the dome. The environmental systems hummed steadily, maintaining a cocoon of livable conditions. Elias prepared a sleeping area for Mira in the main room, offering her the privacy of distance without the vulnerability of isolation. "Why did you help me?" she asked as he was about to retire to his quarters. "You could have been killed." Elias paused in the doorway. "Because it was the right thing to do." "That's not an answer," she challenged. "Right and wrong are cultural constructs. Then maybe I just couldn't watch someone die when I had the power to prevent it." He shrugged. "Get some rest. Tomorrow, you can decide what you want to do next." Mira's expression remained guarded, but she nodded. "I won't stay," she said firmly. "Once I've recovered my strength, I'll leave." "Your choice," Elias replied, emphasizing the word deliberately. "That's the point." In the darkness of the main room, Mira lay awake long after Elias had gone to his quarters. The soft sounds of the outpost's systems created a rhythm unlike anything in the Valoran settlements. Their silence was mandatory during rest periods. Here, the mechanical heartbeat of the dome offered an unexpected comfort. She flexed her hands in the darkness, feeling the lingering soreness in her wrists where the ropes had cut into her skin. Her people had left her to die, yet a human stranger had risked his life to save hers. The contradiction disturbed the carefully ordered beliefs she had been raised with, for the first time in many cycles. Mira allowed herself to consider a future not dictated by clan expectations. The thought was both terrifying and exhilarating. She would leave this place, yes, but for the first time. The path ahead would be of her own choosing. Dawn on Meridian 4 always arrived with brutal efficiency, the twin suns transforming the cool night into blistering day within minutes. Elias was already dressed and checking his equipment when Mira emerged from her makeshift bed. She moved with the deliberate grace he had noticed before. Each action precise and economical. The Eastern Quadrant maintenance grid is failing, he explained, loading diagnostic tools into his pack. I need to repair it before midday, or we lose cooling to 3 sectors. Mira watched him work, her eyes tracking his movements. Your outpost relies on centralized systems? Everything's connected, Elias confirmed. One failure cascades into others. That's why I'm still here. The automated repair drones can't handle the complexity. Mira approached the workbench, examining the array of tools and components laid out in meticulous order. I understand systems, she said quietly. Before my departure, I maintained environmental controls in my settlement. Elias paused, considering her. Would you like to come along? To observe only, she clarified. I make no promises beyond that. The utility vehicle carried them across terrain that looked deceptively uniform to untrained eyes. To Elias, each ridge and depression told a story of the planet's harsh geology. Mira sat beside him, more relaxed than the previous day, but still alert, her eyes constantly scanning their surroundings. Why did you come to Neridian for? She asked suddenly. Humans have better worlds. Elias kept his focus on navigating a particularly rough section before answering. I was military before this. Interplanetary Security Force. After my last deployment, I needed somewhere... quiet. This isn't quiet, Mira observed. It's isolated. There's a difference. Her insight struck uncomfortably close to truth. Elias had chosen exile disguised as employment, burying himself in the routine maintenance of machines that didn't ask questions or expect explanations. They reached the maintenance hub as the temperature began its relentless climb. Elias opened the access panel, revealing a complex network of circuits and cooling tubes. Thermal regulations failing, he muttered, connecting his diagnostic device. The primary coolant pump is overheating, but still functioning. Secondary systems are offline completely. Mira moved closer, her eyes narrowing as she studied the configuration. Without asking permission, she reached past him and traced a finger along one of the junction points. Your coolant flow is restricted here, she said, and this connector is corroded. The system is working harder than necessary because it's fighting itself. Elias looked at her with new appreciation. You really do understand systems. All systems follow logical patterns, she replied. Even when they appear chaotic, they worked side by side under the increasing heat. Mira quickly adapting to Elias's tools despite their unfamiliar design. Her slender fingers moved with precision through the delicate circuitry, identifying problems his scanners had missed. In my settlement, she said as they replaced a failing regulator, we were taught that systems require perfect components. Anything flawed must be removed for the benefit of the whole. And yet here you are, fixing imperfect systems instead of discarding them, Elias observed. Mira's hands stilled momentarily. Perhaps some systems are wrong. The repair took hours, sweat soaking through their clothes as the temperature peaked. When the cooling system finally hummed back to life, at full capacity, Elias felt a satisfaction he hadn't experienced in months. Not just because the repair was successful, but because he had shared it with someone who understood as they drove back to the outpost. The silence between them had transformed from wary to comfortable. Mira gazed out at the harsh landscape with new awareness, seeing not just desolation, but the complex ecosystem of technologies that made survival possible. You said you wouldn't stay, Elias remarked, as the dome came into view. Is that still your plan? Myra turned to look at him, her amber eyes reflecting the setting suns. I said I would leave when I recovered my strength and have you. A faint smile curved her lips, the first he had seen. Not entirely. The repairs were taxing. That night, as they shared a meal, enhanced by Mira's surprising knowledge of how to improve the flavor of standard rations, Elias felt the outpost's familiar silence changing. It no longer echoed with emptiness, but resonated with possibility. Later, as Mira stood by the dome's viewport watching the stars emerge, Elias found himself studying the graceful curve of her neck. the way her white hair caught the dim light. She sensed his gaze and turned. "What happens when everything is fixed?" she asked. "When all your systems run perfectly?" "Nothing's ever fixed permanently," he answered. "That's the nature of entropy, so you'll always be needed here." "Until I'm not," he said. "Everything ends eventually." Myra moved closer, her presence changing the atmosphere between them. "Some things end," she agreed, her voice softer than he had ever heard it. "And some things begin," when her hand touched his. The contact sent warmth through him that had nothing to do with Neridian 4's climate. Her fingers intertwined with his. An unspoken question in the gesture. Elias answered by drawing her closer, his free hand gently tracing the luminescent markings along her cheekbone. The lavender glow beneath her skin intensified at his touch. Pulsing in rhythm with her quickening breath, their lips met hesitantly at first, then with growing certainty. In that moment, Elias realized they were both exiles, finding unexpected sanctuary in each other's broken place, imperfect components, creating something whole. A week passed, then another. The harsh routine of Neridian 4 transformed into something unexpected, a shared rhythm of work and quiet companionship. Mira never officially announced her decision to stay, but each morning she rose with Elias, helping maintain the delicate balance of systems that kept the mining operations functioning. They developed an efficient partnership, moving through the outpost and surrounding maintenance areas with complementary skills. Elias provided the practical knowledge of the planet-specific equipment, while Mira contributed insights from her settlement's more advanced environmental technology. Together, they accomplished in days what would have taken Elias weeks alone. "The northern sector's moisture reclamation units are showing decreased efficiency," Elias noted one morning, studying the data on his console. "We should check them before the midday heat." Mira glanced over his shoulder, her body close enough that he could feel the warmth radiating from her purple skin. "The filtration system likely needs recalibration. The dust storms last week would have accelerated the degradation cycle." Elias turned to face her, finding himself mere inches from her amber eyes. These moments of proximity had become more frequent, lingering longer each time. The tentative kiss they'd shared had opened a door neither seemed ready to close. Yet both hesitated to step fully through. "We could postpone until tomorrow," he suggested, his voice lower than he intended. Myra's lips curved into a smile. "And risk system failure? That doesn't sound like you, Elias. Maybe you're changing my priorities," he replied, brushing a strand of white hair from her face. She leaned into his touch briefly before stepping back. "The systems won't maintain themselves. We should go." The utility vehicle carried them across the increasingly familiar terrain. As they approached the northern sector, Mira suddenly tensed beside him. "Stop," she commanded, her voice sharp with urgency. Elias brought the vehicle to a halt. Following her gaze across the barren landscape, a plume of dust rose in the distance, too controlled to be natural. Too large for standard mining equipment. "Someone's coming," he said, reaching for the optical enhancer in the compartment between them. Through the device, he could make out 3 transport vehicles moving in formation, not company vehicles, but the distinctive rounded design favored by the Valorant settlements. "Myra's people, they're looking for me," Myra whispered, the lavender markings on her skin pulsing rapidly with stress. "How did they find us?" "The repair work we've been doing," Elias realized. The improved efficiency in the systems must have been noticed. They probably tracked the patterns. Mira's face hardened. "We need to return to the outpost immediately. We could avoid them head to the southern sectors until they leave," Elias suggested. "Already turning the vehicle around? They won't leave," Mira said with certainty. "Valorans don't abandon their objectives. Ever. They reach the outpost ahead of the approaching vehicles. But not by much." Elias secured the airlocks, while Mira moved through the living space. Gathering essential supplies with methodical efficiency, "We should leave," she said, her movements precise despite her obvious anxiety. "They won't stop searching." Elias watched her, a heaviness settling in his chest. "This is my post. I can't abandon it." "They'll force you to surrender me," Mira countered, her amber eyes meeting his. "Or they'll kill you." Those are the only outcomes they'll consider acceptable. Before Elias could respond, the outpost's proximity alert sounded. The Valoran vehicles had arrived, stopping in formation 30 meters from the dome. Through the viewport, they watched as 8 figures emerged, purple-skinned like Mira, but wearing the distinctive, segmented armor of Valoran enforcers. Keeper Elias Reeves. A voice announced over the outpost's communication system. We come seeking the return of Valoran property. Surrender the defective female designated. Myra-11-7, and you will remain unharmed. Myra's expression didn't change. But Elias saw her hands tremble once before she clasped them tightly together. Property, he repeated, disgust evident in his voice. Is that how they see you? It's how they see everything, Mira replied quietly. Components in a system, nothing more. Elias moved to the communication panel. There's no one here by that designation, he responded firmly. This is a restricted mining operation outpost. You're trespassing on corporate territory? A moment of silence followed before the voice returned. We have authorization to retrieve our asset by any means necessary. Your cooperation would benefit all parties. Let me speak to them, Myra said suddenly. Elias turned to her in surprise. You can't seriously be considering— I'm considering ending this without bloodshed, she interrupted. They won't leave without what they came for. Before he could argue further, she stepped to the panel and activated it. This is Myra 11-7, she said, her voice steady and clear. I will meet with Enforcer Commander next to discuss terms. The response was immediate. Terms are not negotiable. You will return to your assigned function. Then you waste your time, Mira replied coldly. I am no longer functional by Valoran standards. My neural patterns have been irreversibly altered. I would contaminate the collective. Another pause, longer this time. Elias watched the enforcers outside, conferring among themselves. Verification is required. The voice finally responded. Commander Nex will assess your condition personally. You will present yourself at the airlock for examination. Mira deactivated the communication. System and turned to Elias. I need you to trust me, she said, her eyes holding his with intensity. I know what I'm doing. They'll take you by force, Elias argued, moving closer to her. I won't let that happen. You won't have to, Mira assured him, placing her hand against his cheek. Valorans follow protocol absolutely. I'm going to use that against them. The plan she outlined was simple but dangerous. Elias disagreed vehemently at first, but Mira's logic was flawless. The Valorans' rigid adherence to their own rules created a vulnerability they could exploit. Mira could convince them she was truly defective by their standards. They would have no choice but to abandon their retrieval mission. As Mira prepared to meet with Commander Nex at the airlock, Elias caught her arm gently. If this goes wrong, he began. Mira silenced him with a kiss, fierce and determined. It won't, she promised against his lips. Systems can be predicted and manipulated. Outside, in the harsh glare of the twin suns, Mira stood tall as Commander Nex, approached a towering figure whose purple skin bore the elaborate markings of highest authority. The commander's eyes, cold and analytical, assessed. Myra, like one might examine a malfunctioning machine. What followed was a confrontation unlike anything Elias had witnessed at a battle of weapons, but of wills and words, as Mira systematically demonstrated her contamination by Valoran standards. She spoke of individual choice, of systems built on consent rather than compliance, of the value found in imperfection. With each declaration, the commander's expression grew more disgusted, more certain of Mira's irredeemable defectiveness. When the neural scanner confirmed Mira's brain patterns had indeed altered significantly from Valoran baseline, the commander's decision was inevitable. Subject Myra 11-7 is declared non-viable for reintegration. Contamination levels exceed permissible parameters for recovery. The subject is designated as discarded. Relief flooded through Elias as he watched from the viewport, though he maintained his position at the defense controls, ready to intervene if necessary as the Valoran enforcers returned to their vehicles. Commander Nex delivered a final pronouncement to Myra. You no longer exist within our records. Your genetic lineage is terminated. Your name is unspoken. This is mercy by our law. Mira stood unflinching in the harsh sunlight, watching as the vehicles departed in a cloud of dust. Only when they had disappeared beyond the horizon did she return to the airlock, where Elias waited. The moment the door sealed behind her, he pulled her into his arms, holding her tightly as if to assure himself she was really still. "There, you're free," he whispered against her hair. Mira's arms wrapped around him, her body trembling slightly with the aftermath of tension. "Free," she repeated, testing the word. "I've never been that before." That night, their newfound security transformed into something deeper. Barriers that had held them apart dissolved in the quiet darkness of the outpost. Their bodies came together with the same precision and harmony that marked their work, each touch a discovery, each kiss an affirmation. Myra's purple skin glowed with cascading waves of lavender light as Elias traced the contours of her body. The biological response that had once betrayed her stress, now revealing her pleasure. Their whispered words created a language unique to them, built from shared experiences and newfound vulnerability. In the aftermath, as they lay entwined, Mira traced patterns on Elias's chest with gentle fingers. "What happens now?" she asked softly. Elias captured her hand, bringing it to his lips. "Now we choose together." Morning light filtered through the dome's polarized panels, casting geometric patterns across the floor. Elias woke to find Mira already up, standing by the main console with focused concentration. Her fingers moved deftly across the interface, scrolling through data streams with practiced efficiency. "What are you looking at?" he asked, coming to stand beside her. "Transport schedules," she replied without looking up. "Supply vessels, corporate shuttles. Anything that might be leaving Neridian 4 in the next cycle." Elias felt a momentary tightness in his chest. "You're still planning to leave?" Now Mira did turn to him, her amber eyes softening. "Not alone," she clarified. "But we should leave, Elias. Soon. The Valorans declared you discarded," he reminded her. "They won't come back for you." "It's not the Valorans I'm concerned about," Myra said, gesturing toward the data stream. "Look at these maintenance requests from the central mining facility. The automated systems are being upgraded. Within 2 months, they won't need human oversight at all." Elias studied the information, a chill of recognition running through him. The writing had been on the wall for years. His position was always meant to be temporary, a human stopgap until technology could fully replace him. "The corporation will recall you eventually," Mira continued, gently. "And when they do, what happens to us?" The question hung between them, unavoidable and urgent. Elias had built his life around the solitude of the outpost, finding purpose in the daily struggle against entropy. Now, with Mira, that purpose had expanded to include something he hadn't dared hope for: a future beyond isolation. "Where would we go?" he asked finally. Myra's face brightened. She pulled up a new data stream showing a star chart. "The perimeter colonies are accepting skilled technicians, environmental engineers, system specialists, exactly what we are together. The perimeter is notoriously independent," Elias mused, studying the chart. "No corporate oversight, no connection to the Valoran territories, and they don't care about species difference," Mira added, her hand finding his. "We wouldn't be the first mixed couple seeking a fresh start." The word couple settled between them, acknowledged at last. Elias pulled her closer, marveling at how naturally they fit together despite their different origins. "We'd need transportation," he said, his mind already calculating possibilities. "The monthly supply drone isn't designed for passengers, but it could be modified." Mira smiled. "I've already identified 3 potential vessels. The quarterly inspector shuttle arrives next week. The pilot owes you for repairing his atmospheric regulator last year." "You've thought of everything," Elias said, impressed by her thoroughness. "Systems thinking," she replied with a hint of pride. "Identify all variables. Find the optimal solution." Over the next days, they prepared methodically. Elias completed essential maintenance tasks that would keep the mining operations functioning until his replacement arrived. Mira cataloged their combined skills and certifications. creating documentation that would be valuable in the perimeter colonies. Their evenings took on a bittersweet quality, each sunset bringing them closer to departure from the place that had united them. They made love with increasing urgency, as if trying to imprint the memory of the outpost on their skin before leaving it behind. "Are you sure about this?" Elias asked one night, watching Mira pack the few personal items she had accumulated during her time with him. The perimeter colonies are frontier worlds. Harsh, unpredictable. Mira looked up, her white hair falling across her shoulder. "Are you trying to dissuade me?" "No," he said quickly. "I just want you to be certain. This life here, it's all you've known outside your settlement." She approached him, taking his face between her hands. "This outpost was never my destination, Elias. It was my beginning." Her thumbs stroked his cheekbones gently. "You gave me choice when no one else would. Now I'm choosing a future with you." The inspector shuttle arrived as scheduled, settling onto the landing pad near the outpost with a blast of thrusters that stirred the ever-present dust. The pilot, a grizzled veteran of the corporate transport division, listened to their proposal with surprising openness. "Corporation's already processing your replacement," he informed Elias after reviewing their request. "Automated supervision specialist. No human component at all. Then my departure won't disrupt operations," Elias concluded. The pilot shrugged. "They'll write you off as another burnout case. Happens all the time on these outposts." He glanced at Mira, his expression neutral. "The perimeter doesn't ask questions about where people come from, only what they can contribute." "We can contribute plenty," Mira assured him, her confidence unwavering. Their departure came at dawn, as the twin suns crested the horizon in perfect alignment, a rare astronomical event that bathed the landscape in golden light. Elias stood in the airlock one last time, looking back at the space that had been his world for 3 years. The dome's systems hummed their familiar rhythm. The workbench stood cleared of projects. The bed was made with military precision. Nothing remained to suggest the profound transformation that had occurred within these walls. How two isolated beings had found connection across the vast differences of their origins. "Ready?" Mira asked, standing in the shuttle doorway, her hand extended toward him. Elias took one last look, then turned away. "Ready?" he confirmed, taking her hand. As the shuttle lifted off, Neridian 4's harsh landscape receded beneath them. The mining facilities, the excavation pits, the endless grain fields all diminished to abstract patterns on the planet's surface. Elias felt a momentary pang of loss, quickly replaced by anticipation. Beside him, Mira watched the planet shrink through the viewport, her expression serene. The purple skin of her hand intertwined with his, the faint lavender glow pulsing in harmony with her heartbeat. "Systems always seek equilibrium," she said softly. "Even broken ones eventually find their balance." Elias understood she wasn't talking about machinery anymore. They had both been damaged parts, discarded by their respective worlds, him by choice, her by force. Together, they had created something functional and whole. As the shuttle entered the upper atmosphere, stars became visible, countless worlds offering possibilities neither of them had dared imagine before. Mira leaned her head against his shoulder, and Elias felt the perfect rightness of her presence. They had saved each other in ways that went beyond physical rescue. Now, as Neridian 4 disappeared behind them, and the vast expanse of space opened before them, they faced not just survival, but the promise of something greater, a life's chosen rather than assigned, built on understanding rather than compliance. In the endless frontier of the perimeter colonies, two unlikely exiles would find not just a place to exist, but a place to belong together.